name is Beth Brown, and I'm the pastor at Lincoln Park Presbyterian Church. The only pastor here, so I would say I do a little bit of everything. Certainly a primary piece of what I do is related to worship, and I would say the other really big piece of what I do is related to justice and organizing across the city around different justice issues. In the city, I am part of a faith leader group that was organized ostensibly as the mayor's social justice advisory council, though I'm not sure we really serve in that way. But my particular team that I co-chair was organized around police accountability. I think what inspires me most, as is probably true for a lot of people, are the people. I was just on a call this morning with this faith leader group, most of whom are situated on the south and west sides, and they inspire me by who they are and what they do. I'm constantly amazed at how much they accomplish through the church, and I aspire to be like them. I think our congregation aspires to do that kind of work. We also recognize that we're situated differently, and so our work is going to be different. I think probably most churches are challenged these days in terms of how we're living into life after we had 2 years of great upheaval around the pandemic. In some ways, though, I think it's kind of a false narrative to say that the pandemic was really the greatest upheaval. I feel like any church here in Chicago that has been paying attention has been feeling upheaval for years and years. And I think while there are a lot of churches that are quite self-focused, our congregation, and I know many others, are really focused outward. And by that, what we mean is the work we're doing is intersectional work. So I want to give you a little example. This congregation is the first known Presbyterian church in our denomination across the nation to call an out gay man to be an assistant pastor. This church called him in 1972, and then the presbytery, which is a governing body, blocked his call. But the effect of that was that a ministry related to advocacy for queer people in the Presbyterian Church was born. And what we've learned over the years is it doesn't do any good to advocate for one group. When it comes to justice, we have to be advocating for everyone that is marginalized in every way, or it's kind of, we all suffer together or we're all victorious together. I think initially, white gay men sort of organized and came into some power, and at some point, it took way too many decades, but at some point, they began to realize that their liberation is certainly caught up in the liberation of so many others. Now, I will say some people still haven't gotten that point, but I would say overall, the reckoning, the recognition, the realizing has come from we're all in it together, and we're gonna sink or swim together. And so here in this congregation, we try to do a variety of work that is intersectional. So in the city, one of our big areas is around gun violence and gun violence prevention, in addition to queer advocacy. And that is a big part of who we have been historically and who we are currently. I am a queer pastor, and still people think of that as quite unusual. And when we march in the Pride Parade, you can't imagine the queer folks who weep when they see churches and pastors marching in the Pride Parade. So it still isn't common enough. I also have a trans child. Our youngest is trans, and so I have an extra layer of interest in continuing to help educate people and advocate. So we certainly have done a lot within our own denomination and within the city, I would say. We also, another big area for us I mentioned is around gun violence prevention. And so a while ago, this church, even before I got here, started as their efforts reading the names each week in worship of all of the youth 19 and under who have been killed by gun violence in the past week. And so when I got here, I suggested that we take it outside, and so we put up a display on the front yard of the church where we visualized in some way, or depicted visually in some way, all of the victims, youth victims of gun violence in the past year. Because, when you do it week by week, you're stunned. I mean, when 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 youth have been, and we're only doing the youth who have been killed. We're not including the youth who have been shot, and so that number goes way up. So week to week, you kind of lose track of the enormity. And so, we started doing displays on the front lawn, and when you see, I think one of the highest years was around 110. When you see the faces, because we did pictures that year, of 110 youth in Chicago who have been killed by gun violence, it's a whole different experience. And we wanted to take it outside because we want this community to see it as all of our responsibility. And along with that, we started doing a vigil against violence and started bringing in speakers from all over the city to talk about various, the issues we were talking about. If gun violence is a symptom, what are the root issues? And we began to talk about the root issues of gun violence. And my why is really around people that I love and care about, who are a part of my community, who are a part of my life in different ways. They are part of my why. And it's really about, I'm more than 50. How much time do I have left on this earth? And what do I want to be sure I'm doing with my time? And I can say absolutely one of the things I want to do with my time is to dismantle all the supremacies. Being queer has meant that my pool of opportunities shrunk way, 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 way down. Now, I will say I am a white woman, though. If I were a black woman and queer, my little pool goes to like this big. So I want to name that. I think, there were times I worked in a middle school for 3 years because I couldn't get a call. Because across the nation, there might be 5 to 7 congregations that would call me. 5 to 7 across the nation. It's still the statistics in the Presbyterian Church of the number of churches that say they're open and accepting, and the number that actually call out queer or trans people, bigger number, much smaller number. So there's work to be done in the church. I certainly have experienced some of that, and every day I thank God for bringing me to Chicago, bringing me to this congregation that is just amazing. And I pray for every queer woman, every queer person, every trans person who wants to be called to a church, that those doors will open. Probably one of the things that I feel good about and that this congregation feels good about is that we have offered space to house people who are unhoused. And so 35 people get to sleep here every single night and do all the things all day here because this church was willing to give up space. And, you know, as churches are closing and shelters are being lost because churches are closing, we don't take that for granted, that we've been able to give space and share space, and that we will continue to be able to give and share space.
Hi everyone, welcome. We are here with AARP Illinois presenting our Pride influencers.
Good afternoon. My name is Donald Bell. My major organizations right now is I'm a founding member and a member of the Leadership Council of the National Organization for Men Against Sexism.
My name is Dale Forbes. I am the co-owner of Chicago Upholstery and Drapery Company in Rogers Park. I sit on the board of directors for the Rogers Park Business Alliance, and we together help businesses to be successful. In my own business, we take care of our neighbors in the community. We help to employ young, marginalized men, women, and all those in between to learn a trade. Although it's about upholstery and drapery, I do not do the work myself. I am the face of the business, and I run the operations of the business. So I take care of all the fabrications, all of the clients, all of the appointments, all of the vision. I received my initial degree in New York from the Fashion Institute of Technology. I earned my undergrad in psychology from the University of Phoenix, and then my master's in adult education with a specialty in literacy and training from the University of Phoenix. So we also have a training school where individuals who would like to learn a trade like upholstery and all the things that go in between soft goods, drapery, fabrication, anything to do with the interior, exterior of whether it's residential or commercial, we can impart that type of knowledge. So I'm really happy that I was asked to be here today, and I hope that this is really successful, and I'm glad to meet everyone on the panel.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Carroll. I am an ally of the rainbow community because I was born into it. My mother was a lesbian, and my father is transgender, female to male. And it's funny because I usually don't talk about this because it is such a hard thing to kind of explain. But I was like, it's Pride Month, and my mom has been asking me to talk about it for years. So since she passed, I want to honor her by coming out and saying this is why I go so hard for the rainbow community, because I've been a part of it since I was born. So currently, I am the Chief Operating Officer at Next Legacy Radio. I'm the host of Denaya Azure Radio. I'm the lead marketing consultant for HFL Magazine and K4S Entertainment. I am the camp director for Grammy Award-winning Bad Kids Corporation, which you guys have no idea how proud I am just to see how music has just changed the life of these amazing artists. And also, I am the production coordinator for Life After Sports, which focuses on mental health and making sure that athletes understand that they're more than just a number.
I'm just so impressed by all of y'all so far. Yes.
Wow.
And that hat is just like
Oh,
Everything.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, my name is, my stage name is Mikey Everything. I am an entertainer, rapper, dancer, singer, model. I also am a casting director. I've worked on the television sets of the shows Empire, The Big Leap. What
that
else? Southside is another show that I've worked on. I worked as an extras casting coordinator. I work for 4-Star Casting. I'm also a restaurant manager, but today I'm Mikey Everything, the entertainer. That's what I'm here to represent, and just, I guess, to give my vantage point as a Black gay rapper, which is quite interesting. I will have to say. I actually work with several organizations in the city. I work with the Lighthouse Foundation. I work with the Black Gay Men's Caucus. I work with both. I performed for both of those organizations on several different occasions, and I participate with their outreach programs and all of that. So that's me.
That is dope. I totally forgot to introduce myself too. So y'all are just like, who is this person? So hey, I'm Anna Rose. I am I'm a queer girl that does a lot of art and activism. I grew up in Houston, Texas, but I have been in Chicago for 20 years. I love Chicago. I'm learning things every day about being a civically engaged person in Illinois and what that means. I've run a nonprofit theater company with my wife for almost 15 years. So I want to ask, what is our personal why? Why do we care to be engaged and connecting with other queer people and doing the work that we do?
Music kind of saved me. Not kind of, music did save me. Music was what I started to direct my energy towards instead of directing my energy towards being an addict. Because anyone that has battled addiction will tell you, especially if they've beat it, that you have to focus and try and work at being an addict. It's a job. It is a full-time job. And I made the decision to stop that and to put it towards my music. And it just changed my life. Can I just say one thing to you? It warms my heart to see a 72-year-old gay Black man. That's not, there should be a poster of your face on Eisenhower, because there's not a lot of us around.
Exactly.
You know, and a lot of us don't even think about what 72 would even look or feel like on us, because we don't even think we're gonna get that far. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that appreciation.
Yes.
And that's absolutely right, and that's a very fundamental part of my identity, because as a Black man and as a gay Black man or same gender loving Black man, I've left a lot of people behind, not just to HIV/AIDS, but to war, to drugs, to gun violence, to other disparities that we suffer within our community, including health disparities and job loss and on and on and on. And being considered at my age as part of the first out generation of LGBT elders is very important to me, because we've gone through a lot and I'm still here. I come from a tradition in the LGBT community where we value this community as a community of choice. We're not a naturally occurring community. We are an intentional community, and we bring into this community all of the socialization, all of the values, all of those things from our communities of origin. And so within this community, we have to deal with racism, we have to deal with sexism, we have to deal with classism and all of these things. But if we accept the value that we are a community of choice, then we will work on those things and become a part of a family of choice. And a family is intergenerational. So for all of us, we have a role no matter what our age or our space is.
I arrived in this country 35 years ago from a little Caribbean island and just had an idea in my head. And so, you know, when I got there, I met so many people that I was unaware how influential they were, like Marsha P. Johnson, who was just this loon that walked up and down the street, and she would stop and talk to you, and you know, you would engage her, and then the next day you would see her again, and she wouldn't remember who you were, but always very, very accommodating. And so, of course, you know, years went on, and then people started having conversations, and then you realized who this person was and what she meant to my ability to exist and walk down the street in my own skin. You know, in 2 or 3 weeks, I will be 53. And so when you talk about aging, it is a little difficult when you are in our pool and you mention your age and people's their skin starts peeling off of their faces. They are traumatized that that you are so old because, you know, 20 is the new 20, and 50 will be the 50, and 70 will be the 70, and we try to find our niche. And when you find your tribe, you are able to meet with like-minded people and share ideas and hope that you could pass your thoughts and ideals on to the people who are coming, you know, behind you, explaining to them the path that we have taken and the strides that we have taken to get to this part, to enable them to then, you know, carry on, like the Marsha P. Johnsons and, you know, all the people that I met in New York. When I first arrived, they were shooting Paris is Burning, and I had no idea how wonderful and historical that piece of material would be. And I look at it now, and I am both elated and saddened because those were my people, my tribe, my friends, and I would say 80% of them are no longer here.
I've been doing advocacy work since I was 7. So I first, so what happened was my father was a mill person for over 40 years. And so my first act of charity was that he picked somebody on his route and we donated presents to them. So I talked about that and I became a housing advocate. I was one of the youngest people on the board for what is now called One Northside, but originally it was called Organization of the Northeast. I got into that because I was a member of United Church of Rogers Park for 8 years. And so what happened was I was this young black girl that knew how to speak properly, and I wasn't afraid to say when things were wrong. I told the stories of people that were afraid to speak up because I was raised to never be afraid to speak up.
I don't think that, you know, running around barefoot on the island, and I don't think that anybody had the thought in their mind that I would become a business owner. I went back a few years ago, and an old teacher of mine says, I always knew you would be successful, but I didn't know in what. So I think that you plant a seed because, you know, seeds were given to us, and you plant that seed, and I think that hoping that it is nurtured well, that becomes the change.
I've always wanted to do what I'm doing. I've always wanted to be an entertainer. I've always, like, from the moment I saw Janet Jackson on the television screen at 4 years old, I knew that's what I wanted to do. There was no questions asked. But there was no one that looked like me, felt like me, talked like me that was doing it at all. Except for when I was a kid, maybe Heavy D. But Heavy D isn't queer. You know what I'm saying? He's just heavy and light-skinned like I was, like I've always been. So, like, that was the only person that I ever saw that, like, I was like, I want to do what he's doing. I want to dance. I want to rap. I want to do that. And I just never, I kind of, like, denied it from myself because I didn't think it was possible. And now that I have, like, now that I'm completely living in my truth, I have acquired this entire group of amazing individuals, amazing creatives called the House of Everything that's compiled of dancers, singers, rappers, wardrobe stylists, makeup artists, everything. And, you know, they help me create, you know, the art that I create. You know, I'm a visual artist, and they, the music videos that people see and they love so much, and they're like, oh my God, this video had to cost $10,000. No, it didn't. I just have an amazing team behind me, and when I was on the set of Empire, I literally took notes every single day because I knew that's what I wanted to do. And even when I was doing that, I didn't even know why I was doing it. I just knew it was something inside of me that was like, I'm gonna create something, I'm gonna make something great. So, you know, to be an agent of change, yes, I am an agent of change, but you can be queer, black, fat, all of those things, and you can still be everything.
What do you do on a daily basis to keep your positivity going?
I'm blessed enough to lead a group of artists that make music every single day. And so I get to create and these beautiful songs every day with these young artists from around the country, and just knowing that for some of them, this is life-saving. This is what's driving them. This is what they wanted to do, but they couldn't because the industry is so crazy. It's not that they're able to create with someone, with Malik Yousef, who actually mentored Kanye West. And we were able to say that out of all the work we've done, we have 2 Grammys because of it.
Okay.
To be a part of that makes me smile every day.
Yeah, I mean, and even without the accolades,
Yeah.
art saves
Of course,
lives.
Yeah.
And doing art just for self-care even is so important without hanging out with Grammy
Yes.
winners or But I would love to hear if you have any resources that you would like to share with our community out there.
I sit on the board for the Rogers Rock Business Alliance, and they provide training for individuals who are trying to open a business. They have incubator programs to learn things, mentor with business owners. They even try to find spaces for individuals who want to open a business, the right space for the right business in and around Rogers Park that runs from Howard to Devon, from the lake to Ridge. So, I mean, and they take care of so much that happens. I mean, you see Christmas lights on the streets. That's the Alliance. Well, you know, they do things like that. Thank goodness we have a really good alderwoman, Maria Haddon, who is part of our immediate community, who takes care of so much and helps all of us, but, you know, we lays with her to, you know, get things done in our community. So the Rogers Park Business Alliance is a really good resource for those wanting to open businesses or find out if their businesses are viable, and on and on and on.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship, it's important.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't like working for anyone but myself, so I would think other people would enjoy working for themselves too.
Absolutely. The Lighthouse Foundation is a really great resource for housing, for wellness, for mental health, along with the Black Gay Men's Caucus. The Black Gay Men's Caucus has been doing this fitness initiative where they do at Gold's Gym, which is the only gay gym in the city, run by gay people, all of the LGBTQ people, all of the coaches there, LGBTQ or LGBTQ allies. It's just a really cool, safe space. I took a boxing class there that was so awesome. So Black Gay Men's Caucus has really great resources for just wellness in general. You know, music and dance resources. You know, the House of Everything, which is my performance collective. We have choreographers, we have dancers, we have songwriters, engineering. Shout out to Hassan Hannes, HADC, which is Hassan Allen Dance Crew, Closet Vocal Studio, which is Q Shantae's studio. If you're looking to record music or get choreography to your music, holler at me because I can help you there.
I'm a person who is politically engaged, and I think that people need to stop shying away from it and become politically engaged, because we are at the point in human history where, as we see the structures of human society degenerating, that we can predict that we are killing ourselves. We live in a country that loves its guns more than its children. You know, we have substituted oligarchy for democracy, and we've got to deal with those things. And we've got to deal with one other thing, and that's the planet, because we can model right now the actual moment when we will not be able to come back from what we've done to the earth. So let's not fear that. Let's engage and do what we can.
So thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you all so much for this conversation. It has been so great to feel your energies and your vibes and learn from all of you. So find all of these lovely people online, their organizations. There's so many great resources out there, and we appreciate AARP Illinois very much for hosting this Pride Influencer panel. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm co-founder of Windy City Times and publisher of the Chicago Reader newspaper. Oftentimes, the work I've done over the last 38 years, I haven't really known what the impact is. But I just did something this week where a young woman who had worked at a community organization and had trouble, she came up to me, and it's been years since I talked to her, and she said how important it was just to have kind of a few words of hope and inspiration for her, that it would get better. And I think that's why I continued the work. Like I did the Chicago Gay History Project interviews in part to re-energize myself, to remember why I do this work. Instead of burning out on the politics and the infighting, it's for the people. It's for the people that didn't make it and the people that did. You know, I feel pretty lucky that I came into this community at age 21 in 1984. I kind of was at a pivot point of the movement. I was just in time to have met pre-Stonewall activists, just in time to have to understand that we were starting a war. There were fewer than 100 diagnosed cases of HIV when I started working in 1984. So I met generations before me, and those people inspired me, and they treated me equal as this young little punk. At 22, co-founding a gay newspaper, you know, I got respect from the elders and the older generation in a way that I didn't expect. And so that I've always tried to think that way when I'm talking to the next generations as well. Like, time is valuable to people that don't think they're worth anything. So I got lucky. I was at a perfect point in LGBTQ history to have seen both sides of that spectrum. Well, there's a lot of people who are gone who inspired me. People from the HIV/AIDS movement, the ACT UP movement, like Danny Sotomayor, Dr. Ron Sable, and also Robert Ford from Thing magazine, who died, you know, very tragically young, incredible creative person. And then people who died older that were mentors, like Renee Hanover, Marie Kuda, Vernita Gray. I've gotten to write a few books about some of them, but there really are thousands of people that have fed me through, you know, my heart, my brain, my life, and literally fed me sometimes when I needed a meal. And so I can't even begin to name all of those, and if I could even, you know, touch that number, that would be phenomenal. When I first graduated from Drake University with a journalism degree in 1984, there were only a handful of openly gay journalists in the mainstream media. So I didn't really think I could be a journalist and get paid for it. I thought I'd work in the feminist press or the gay press forever. But once I found a foothold in the gay press right away, I was like, I could not fit in the mainstream. My stepfather and my mother both worked in the mainstream, and my mom as a woman had hard enough time. So I feel like there were a lot of journalism pioneers that inspired me, for sure, but it's still been a struggle. And most of it's economics, you know, being able to keep the paper going. being able to support the journalists, support the work. There's a never-ending amount of work. Having the resources to cover it has always been the biggest frustration. I've been lucky to be in the place I'm in as long as I have. Most of the people I went to journalism school got out of journalism within a few years because it's not a great profession, especially if you want to raise a family or anything like that. So I also stayed in one place the whole time, meaning Chicago. My mother kind of had to move around a lot in her journalism career, and I did the opposite. I stayed in kind of one community, one place for a very long time. So I feel very acknowledged, and I feel like I can see the change because of it. I run into the people, right, that I've covered, and today is a great example of almost everybody here I feel like I've covered at one point over the last 38 years. So I can see it. So I do feel like I'm part of a whole community that has created incredible change, but it's only because of prior movements and prior people. The gay movement would not exist without the immigrant rights movement, farm workers movement, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the right to vote movements right before it. All of those fed it. So I feel like I'm in this spot in history where I can see that, and I feel very lucky, and I want to make sure we're passing the baton for the next generations to understand that they can be those change agents too. So in 1985 is when I co-founded Windy City Times as a LGBTQ newspaper. It very much was in the spirit of the Chicago Reader, which started as a free newspaper, one of the first free ongoing papers in the country in 1971. The Reader was always kind of this edgy, progressive counterculture, but it was predominantly straight white men producing it, and some amazing women as well. But they did cover queer stuff. They did cover Danny Sotomayor and Dr. Ron Sable and Tom Keel and his historic judicial run. So they did cover the community periodically, and they definitely were like progressive in the sense of liberal, progressive, pro-gay, pro-cannabis, that kind of thing. And taking it over was like, I still pinch myself that I would go from Windy City Times to the Reader, because that was really an impossible leap in prior eras. And we've definitely queered it up. We've definitely diversified it. We inherited a staff that was all but one white person. And we've really diversified the staff, and we have a long way to go in terms of our goals. But I think that helps you do the work better. Well, I think media generally is extremely important to any issue. Whether you care about theater, criminal justice reform, environmental racism, LGBTQ issues, HIV/AIDS, we must have the storytellers and the media to amplify those voices. And the important work that Windy City Times and the Reader and other media in Chicago do, there's over 100 media outlets in Chicago. What they do is give voice to people who don't get necessarily on broadcast news or in the Tribune every day. And so to me, media, we're losing this kind of fourth estate. The media is the fourth estate, and it is crumbling. And so part of my mission is to bring more resources into community media, whether that's the Reader, Windy City Times, or 69 other members of we have a Chicago Independent Media Alliance project that's part of the Reader. So to me, it's a lift all boats, because there is La Raza, there is the Defender, there's the Tribe, there's all these outlets that do incredible work every day, and we know that there's a ripple effect to when they cover people, because I know I've seen it in the community media I've been part of. People come to me 10, 20 years later and say, that story you did, I still have a copy of it. It inspired me to do my work a little bit longer, or it inspired me to volunteer or give or whatever it is. So I know all of these outlets have that ripple effect. Ones that are 120 years old or 2 years old, we have to support them, or we will lose a whole part of the ecosystem of Chicago that keeps it together. We need the critics of color covering the Goodman Theater and Free Street Theater, and we need the artists covered. We need all these people covered to bring them up to once they get to be the level of Beyonce or Chance the Rapper, right? The community media covers those kind of artists on the way up, and so that's what we will continue to do, is try to survive, pay our people, and lift all boats in the media ecosystem here.
I'm free, I'm gay, I'm out. I want everybody to know it. When we had the pandemic and there was nothing to do, I started writing my memoirs. I lived a straight life, I married, and we had a daughter. Finally, in 1980, we got divorced. I intended to go to my grave as a straight person in the closet. But I ran back into my memories of Philip. Philip was my first love, and I left him 60 years ago, and that love has never left me.
Hi, sweetie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
was a relief to me that suddenly I'm out of the closet to my own family. I'm free from all the secrets I've kept from them.
I was pretty surprised when my dad came out, not totally. I was just so sad for him because you could tell he just had so much regret.
Here I am, a gay person, very much in the closet, advising my daughter who is coming out to me that, no, you can't do that, it's not right.
I think he was telling me all the things he'd been telling himself all these years, but has been a great advocate ever since.
I was afraid that a lot of them would say, well, okay, goodbye, nice knowing you, but they didn't. I started getting immediate messages from people everywhere. We as a community are not just happy for you, but also really proud. I read your story and I wanted to say congratulations on your journey and to be proof to the world that it is never too late to be authentically you. For a while, there was like 200 messages a day, and many of them told me about their life and how they wanted to come out and how my coming out had given them the courage to do so. This one is one of my favorites too, one of my sunglasses. I am as happy as I have been for the last 70 years. I have just started blooming.
Oh, I'm so proud of my dad. He feels confident in who he is, and he doesn't have that shame anymore.
My mission is to let gay people who are in the closet know that people will continue to love you and even give you more love.